So Emily, today we're going to talk a little bit about the bowel, how to make our bowel happy and functioning as normally as we can. Do you have some tips for that?
Absolutely. So yes, not many people pay attention to their bowel habits unless they start to have issues. But essentially, normal bowel routine, people tend to empty their bowels from 3 times a day up to every 3 days. So anything between those frequencies is considered normal, if that's been normal for you. Stool consistency is important, so we need to aim for a type 4 smooth sausage. Anything harder than this can be really difficult to pass, and you might end up straining, getting constipated, which is not great for your pelvic floor and doesn't feel good either. Anything loose than this can be really difficult to control, so you might get those sudden urges to need to empty your bowel, need to rush to get there, potentially some leakage and things as well. So stool consistency is really, really important. Stool consistency can be improved with diet, exercise and hydration. So trying to stay well hydrated can help with any constipation issues. Water is needed in the bowel for the stool to mix with, and if you're not well hydrated, there'll be no water in the bowel for the stool to mix with, and so the stool can become harder and more difficult to pass. Fibre intake is very important, so 9% of people reach the RDA of 30 grams a day with the fibre, which if you're not getting enough fibre in your diet, your stool could be either too hard or too soft. Exercise is good, so movement, the bowel likes movement. The bowel also loves routine, so eating, if your bowels are a little bit erratic, eating regular meals can be really helpful, so breakfast, lunch, dinner at the same time every day. Generally 15 minutes after your first meal of the day, a reflex happens where the peristaltic movement in the gut starts to push the stool around your gut, and it can then give you that urge to need to empty your bowel. So trying to sit on the loo, if your bowel movements are a little bit erratic and you're not in a real good routine with your bowel, 15 minutes after your first meal in the day, and try to train your bowel into a good routine of going at the same time every day can be really, really helpful as well. People tend to get a bit constipated if they start to ignore those urges with the bowel. So if, say, they have a really busy quick morning, they have time, they're leaving for work early, they get to work, they're a bit anxious to use toilets to have a bowel movement, so the stool gets then stored for a bit longer than it should, water gets drawn out of it, and that can cause constipation. Hormones can sort of also affect things as well, so coming into perimenopause can start to affect bowel movements.
So Emily, are there any particular tips about how to empty your bowels, what position you'd be in, or do we just get on the toilet and go with it?
Absolutely. So our bodies were designed to squat to empty our bowels. When we're squatting down, the angle between our rectum and our anus reduces and straightens out, and it makes it much easier to then empty our bowels without any straining. With a conventional toilet, our hips and knees are at 90 degrees, and that angle is increased. So essentially, if you're sitting on a toilet, you're having to squeeze your stool around a bend in order to empty your bowels, which can increase the strain on the pelvic floor and cause just more difficulty emptying. The squatting position can be replicated, so we can get ourselves a little stool, something like a potty training stool, and just pop it under our feet. So when we're sitting on the toilet, our knees are then higher than our hips, and then we can just pop our elbows on our knees and lean forward, and that can help straighten out the anorectal angle and make it much easier to empty your bowel without straining down through the pelvic floor muscles.